Welcome to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprofit.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey. And today we're continuing our 2023 talk. We are in 2023, so it makes sense now. Talking about 2023 rankings. We've done running backs. We did wide receivers. So if you haven't heard those episodes, go back and check out who our top 10 players at each position are for next year. Today, we're going to do quarterbacks. We got our top 10 quarterbacks. This is an interesting one to me. I was going through it again and trying to rank them. And you could honestly go a lot of different ways, but I think we'll see. I think there's a clear top 7-ish. Let's see if we end up with the same. I'll see if we'll see if that ends up being what it is or not. But all right, let's go. Number one, Jeff, who do you got?
Number one, this can be a debate, but I would actually feel the best with Josh Allen. I like what he brings. He obviously has a tremendous team. He was very consistent throughout the year, and I don't think his weapons are going to change all that much. I think that he is going to be in line for another top 3 no matter what kind of year. So I like Josh Allen over the other couple of guys that I would consider. I think this is a 3-person tier. He's the safest, and I think that he does have a ton of upside with the weapons he has. So
I'm with you on the 3-person tier, and I did put Josh Allen 1. He is, though, right now 3rd, I think, in points per game, I think, possibly. Or no, maybe it depends. I don't know.
He's 3rd right now. Yeah.
Is he 3rd? But I don't know if they're counting. I don't know if they're what they're doing with that. If they're counting that the game that.
Oh, good point. Good point.
They might be counting the Bengals game.
Yeah.
If that it's very well could be the case. I'm not actually sure how some of the I think some of them have. Either way, he's right there. He has the passing plus the running. And there's been some times this week or this year where he's not been completely as dominant as you might want, but he's still great. And him and then the rest of the top 2 or the top 3 here, I think could change how we draft fantasy next year in a way. I think you want one of these guys, to be honest. They're so far ahead. They're so far ahead.
They are. And this year kind of changed it where you and I will just talk for me. I always felt like I could draft and scheme a way where, hey, if my guy I take later doesn't hit if it's not a Lamar, if I don't get Burrow, if I don't get the guy next, right, which would have probably been maybe Jalen, but even though he was pretty high anyway, if you don't get that guy, I can make sure that I get a guy that is in the top 10 every week. I don't worry about it. That was very difficult this year. There was so much up and down with every single quarterback, even guys that I really trust that will show up in my top 10. I couldn't plug and play like I usually do. If you had one of these top 3, they were the only 3 guys that you actually could do that for. And that is kind of wild that it doesn't go past that. That is very unusual. Usually you do have one guy that stands above the rest, but it's kind of like, do you pick correctly? In this one, you pick the safe one, you pick the tier, and then you don't worry about it, which very unusual.
This year it felt like because those top 3 were so good, and then there's a lot of other guys that are solid that you can get after, but these ones are so far ahead, and even points per game, they're quite a bit ahead. But you can still fill in with other guys. Like this year it would have been like Geno Smith is 6th right now in scoring as a quarterback. Daniel Jones is like 7th. It's crazy. Jared Goff's top 10. You could fill in with that, but these other guys are a full touchdown ahead of you.
And let's be clear about that too. Jared Goff is in the top 10, but if you played him week to week, it is either feast or famine. There was incredibly unsafe. And a lot of these guys were getting hurt too. And that is going to come into play with my ranks even. So that is another thing. But who do you have at number 2?
So this is where we know the next 2 probably. Who are you going to go with? I went with Mahomes.
I did too.
I feel safe.
I
think it's the safe route there. So it means Jalen Hurts is number 3, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So we have the same exact top 3. Hurts has that running ability, right? And it's awesome. He's great. But Mahomes has just been doing it now for how many years? Few years. Yeah. He just keeps doing it. He is the number 1, I think, QB this year. With Hurts missing a couple of games, so he's not number 1 in points per game scoring. Hurts is a little bit ahead of him. But Hurts has obviously missed the last 2 games, so it dropped him down a little bit.
Yep.
I just don't, though, but that's part of it is will that running ability keep him hurt at times? Maybe dinged up a bit, nothing crazy, but just enough where he misses this couple games here. And that's the thing with Jalen Hurts. If you had Jalen Hurts this year, he did very well for you. He got you a long way, and then guess what? He just missed the championships for you.
Yeah,
which
it's
sucks.
pretty brutal.
So I'm not saying you can't count on that, but could he stay hurt? Mahomes has been hurt, obviously, too, in the past, but he seems to be healthier.
And I don't, and this isn't all because of running, but
yeah.
Look, the other guys that will, spoiler too, but like these guys show up on my list. But hey, Lamar Jackson has only played 12 games. Kyler Murray, 11. Dak Prescott, who got injured while running, even though he's not a pure runner, is only in 11. And obviously he missed a lot of, the year before. It is not a thing where I completely take him off my list, but it does add to the worry. And yep. Lamar is still going to show up on my list very high, but it's all about Josh Allen is a running quarterback, but that is not his identity anymore. And he can throw the ball. He has digs. He has a ton of things that he can do. Lamar still is run first. Like that's how he makes his living. And when he is doing it, he's freaking amazing.
Yep.
But, he's won me a championship in the past. And there would be another quarterback on here that is young legs, and I'm going to, I will definitely draft him if I get the opportunity, but that is kind of the difference. And that's why Jalen and Jalen, let's be honest too, for the average was only about a point better than
it's not much. It's very close.
If he was way better, then I would take my chances. But if you're only a point better, and then you have Mahomes, which let's be honest, didn't have his best weapons ever by any stretch of the imagination. If they add to it or they figure out something else, he could without a doubt add to what he's already doing, which is, nearly 26 points per game in standard.
He has 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns.
Yeah. And tell me who his number one wide receiver is. Like a rundown Juju
Smith,
a Hardman that didn't actually ever really take off.
MVS.
He obviously has Kelsey, and that's what people point to, but
yeah,
have Kelsey next year, and tight ends take a while to slow down. So I think that it's kind of one of those where even though Jalen Hurts is hitting it, I don't know if he actually gets better. I think Allen and Mahomes actually do have ability.
And with Mahomes, I'm still you're gonna hear some hype next year from me on Kadarius Toney again, if that guy could ever stay healthy.
Yeah, I know.
If he could just not have a hamstring injury. But that's pretty much what he is. But all right, there's our top three. Same exact top three: Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. Where'd you go number 4?
Number 4, I'm going a little bit chalk for where they're ending up right now. I'm going Joe Burrow.
Okay.
Who doesn't love the guy?
Mm-hmm.
He had a rough start to the year, but he got it back on track. He is currently right now 4th as far as average goes. He has great weapons. They're a young team. Hopefully they keep adding to that offensive line and everything around him. There's not a lot not to like. He doesn't run. He throws a ton. So there's 2 other guys that I could see going above him because of their upside. But Joe Burrow, I absolutely love what he brings. And if he puts it all together, my God. And if Chase and Higgins, they stay healthy, he will have a guaranteed, top 10 year for sure. And I love that, that safety for him.
I put Burrow here too. And it becomes more, I'm being a little safer in my picks, I think. But he's been great. And it feels like he's only getting better, I feel like. It just feels like he gets better towards the end of the year here. And Jamar Chase is awesome. I feel really confident in him at number 4. That's why I put him here. I think you're obviously anybody can get hurt, but I'm saying there's less worry about it with him. Anything can happen. A freak thing's going to happen, right? But,
and I laugh because we say this about people that have already gotten hurt.
Yeah, exactly. He's been out for a year. It happened, right?
It did happen. Yeah.
But there's other players that just put themselves at risk more often is the worry. And so Burrow, I feel really safe about it. So who'd you go 5?
5, I went with a tried and true runner. I went with Lamar. I love the guy. He is a guy that every year I'm kind of hoping that he drops to me because we know his ability. He's won me a title. He is the epitome of the most exciting player on the field. I can't, sing his praises enough. And this year he's averaging a little over 20 points. He is firmly in the top 10, but he's only played 12 games. And once again, like his number one wide receiver who was already young got hurt for like the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
Who else are they going to add to that? I love that they have J.K. Dobbins, but that doesn't necessarily add to, Lamar's numbers. So even though I like where they're going, it still worries me just, the injury aspect of it when the guys above him have been outperforming him this year, even when he was healthy. So that is why, even though he has tremendous upside, I put him at number 5.
So he's my number 6. So that's the first time we'll differ.
I think we probably just switched 2 players up.
Yeah, so he's my number 6 again. Yeah, love Lamar, but again, just want him to stay on the field. It's happened a few years now where he's not been on the field there at the end. Stuff's happened, and again, the receiving group, we need more consistency from him. Andrews obviously is good. Andrews hasn't had the amazing season this year. He's obviously still a top 5 tight end, but that hasn't been, he's barely better than Evan Ingram this year, to be honest with you, in scoring. So, but I love Lamar, and I think he's going to fall a little bit further than what he has he's going to continue to fall like to that part. Those first 3 guys are going to go early, right? Mm-hmm. Burrow, maybe, we don't know. Lamar's going to fall a little bit more. You're going to get value out of Lamar.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll about to find out where Craig went with number 5. So, but I think that this is where you can really start mixing him up, because if you really wanted to hold it against him, a lot of people will say the injury, and a lot of people will look at the numbers and they're not wrong. Like he is slightly better than a lot of these guys, but they're in this 18 to 20 range. There is so many really quality QBs that were so up and down as far as points per game on average. But anyway, who'd you go in number 5?
So I went with Justin Fields.
Okay. So I went with him number 6. So we did flip flop.
Yeah. And again, injury concerns here too. There's a lot of injury concerns with these running quarterbacks. These guys who have it, there just is. And that's one thing to consider. Fields ran for 1,100 yards this year. 1,100. That's a pretty solid season. 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns running.
Yes,
ball.
And remember, they really didn't let him run for the first handful of games.
It didn't get unleashed until, it was really like, he was having some good game. Like early in the year was 28 yards, 20 yards, 47 yards, 52, 47, and then it picked up. Yeah, that's in week 6. He
went
88.
five games without really going above 50. That is pretty amazing for going 1,100.
Yeah, and he just kept at that point turned it on. He was from, let's say, if I go week 6 on, he was the number 3 quarterback in the league in scoring at that point. Again, I'm worried a little bit about the fact that his passing has not really stepped up yet. Lamar's proven himself a lot more as a passer than Justin Fields has. Fields has had, I'm looking at his numbers, 2 games with 200 yards ever this year. That's it. 2 games. So there's not much. You don't have as much on the passing there to fall back on. And he doesn't really have great receivers either, necessarily. He has some okay guys. He has Claypool. He has Mooney. They're okay, but they're not. Kmet's an okay tight end. Nothing special there, but the running is what's going to do it for him. And he's just electric on running the ball. So
he's great, but that is my big worry. I love Justin. I was all in. I got him at the right time, and I just put him in and plug and play as long as he was healthy. But him and Lamar they pretty much put up similar numbers, on average. And Justin was better than him this year, but at the same time, I'm kind of in your camp where I'm kind of like, okay, like I like young Kmet, I like a Mooney, I like Claypool, but if that doesn't improve, like defenses, even though they won't be able to stop him, they will be looking to take him out of the game at some point. Like not, you're not trying to injure him or anything, but hey, we're just gonna blitz this guy to all hell, and like what happens kind of deal. And he, in that case, he will be unpredictable. Good defenses will shut him down, and because of that, I like I go for someone that's a little safer. But
we've seen running quarterbacks that really do well at a time, and it doesn't last forever at all. Even Lamar, like we look at it, Lamar had the 1,200 yard rushing season in year 2. Same Fields is doing it this year. Then he ran for 1,000 the next year, and then the 2 years after that, he's only played 12 games in each season. Yeah, and the yardage obviously went down because of it.
Well, and also very few teams, when they have a quarterback like that, They put a lot of time into him to make sure he stays on the field, and then they try to reduce the amount of hits he takes. They try to reduce the amount of runs, and that's very smart. But at the same time, usually it hurts their production. And let's be honest, like Fields, I would love to think that he can turn into a good passing quarterback in this league, but he has not shown anything of that sort yet. No, I mean, and if you're not worried about him running, it becomes like the windows are much tighter. So but he's incredibly young. So it's great that he goes up in our top 10 at all.
Yeah, we need to see some more passing from him though. I think it can happen.
It's wild that he is going to be above guys that have done it already. So it is like we do think very highly of him.
So who's your number 7?
Number 7, and this is where I have a feeling we're going to get into this where we'll argue a little bit, but I'm going Kyler Murray, and he only played 11 games.
I didn't rank him because I don't know how his injury is going to play out. That's it.
Okay. Yep. Right now, I kind of always I take injuries a little lighter, like currently injured, because he's been out long enough where I think he'll rehab and blah blah blah. But that'll change things. But if he is healthy, Kyler would come in here. He did not have the year I thought he was going to have. He only pretty much had like either Hollywood or he had Hopkins. He didn't really ever have them both at the same time. Very, very few. I think he can get back on track. He can do it all. I mean, he can run, he can throw. He is like an insane gunslinging quarterback, and I love watching him play, and he's great to have. But he's never he's put up big points, but he's never had that moment where everyone has been like, okay, yeah, he gets it now. Like he's going to be safe week in, week out. He gets it. It's never been like that. And it feels like the defenses have gotten the better of him this year. But hey, I mean, he's still so good that I put him at number 7, even with the injury and everything.
Yeah. So if he's healthy, it makes sense. He actually was 7th in points per game this year at quarterback position in the point. And funny enough, the 6 guys ahead of him are all the guys we already ranked. So it's pretty chalk what we're on our ranks, but it is, but it doesn't need it. There's no need to be crazy with it. There just isn't.
No, and I think
quarterback's pretty consistent.
Yeah. And if you saw where these guys were ranked in the beginning of the year, it's also kind of chalk. The big thing is moving them to where their team has kind of moved and what they were able to do over the year. And we'll get to, I'm sure both of us have a guy that plummeted in the top 10.
Yeah. So
I don't know as long as he hung on for you.
So to say Kyler didn't make my top 10, but it's really only the injury thing. And we'll see. I think he ends up becoming a value because of it. If we find out I think there's been some rumblings he might not be ready for the start of the year. It's January. How do we don't know what September is going to bring, right? That's 9 months away. But if that's the case, you could end up getting a steal on Kyler Murray. Then if he's not going to be ready for the beginning of the year, I'm going to recommend him all over the place if you can get him later.
Right.
That'll be awesome. So my number 7, I went with Justin Herbert.
That's our man that plummeted.
Yeah, and it's kind of given the benefit of the doubt, right? That this year it's more of a fluke. He was not great. He just wasn't. We expected some big things from him, and he's shown some games, but then he's had multiple 0 touchdown games, which you just didn't think you were going to see. He's had 3 0 touchdown games. You don't want to see that. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 1 touchdown games. So in 9 games, he's either had 0 or 1 touchdown. That's not good. You don't want that. But last year he had 38 touchdowns. This year he's dropped to 23. His yardage was still there. He had 4,400 yards yet with 1 game left. Last year he had 5. So he's going to be slightly shorter than last year, but not a lot. The touchdowns feel fluky to me in a way when you look at it that way. When you see his other stuff, he had 31 in his first year, 38, and then now 23. That just feels, especially when the yardage is still up there and his completion percentage is better than it's been. A lot of the numbers look okay. I think it's going to bounce back. And, he'll still have Keenan Allen if Keenan Allen is healthy for a year. Mike Williams still there. Josh Palmer, I think, is a good wide receiver, is coming up a little bit. So given the benefit of the doubt, he's young. He's 24 years old. Like I'm not that worried. So
I agree with. I mean, I have him at number 8. And he's another one you can make the argument for. Should he jump up the rankings again? Depending on what they do with the team. If they added another wide receiver that I think could really like take the top off or something, I feel like they missed that a little bit this year. The fact that Mike Williams and Keenan Allen weren't really on another one. They just weren't on the field together all as much as we'd like them to be. He's missing kind of a tight end position. Like they could, and he still has Eckler. Like they have so much, but I do agree with you. Like, even though fantasy wise, he has taken a giant step backwards because of the touchdown, number, he has gotten better in other ways. And the fact that, like, look, he stayed healthy, his completion percentage was up. Overall, even though his average was down to, he was not even at 17, he was almost at 17 points per game, but because he actually stayed healthy, I believe he was the 12th quarterback, and you're one good game away from pole vaulting yourself into like the 8th, 9th spot or whatever. So yeah, I put him on here. I still very much believe in him. I think he's the one that you could completely forget about, and he might turn into even though I think he'll end up being on everyone's top 10 list. I do think that he might scare a lot of people off because they drafted him number 1, even possibly. Like that's how highly people were talking about him.
Yep.
And then he doesn't end up in the top 10. So he might be the biggest pickup in QB, honestly, because he does have the ability to jump into that top 3.
He does
tier
for sure. So, all right, my number 8. Then that was your 8th. So my 8, Trevor Lawrence makes my top 10 at number 8.
Is my number 10.
Okay, so he really started to show some signs here at the end of the year. That's where it really is coming. And the last 2 games have actually gone back down to earth. He's had no touchdowns in either of the last 2 games, which is very disappointing. But he had a good, that week 10 through 15, he was really starting to play well. He had a bunch of touchdowns. He was the number 4 quarterback in that stretch, weeks 10 through 15, only behind Hurts, Fields, and Mahomes, ahead of Burrow, ahead of Josh Allen for a 5-week stretch. It was pretty solid. And I think we'll see more of that because he's had 3 touchdowns in 3 games. He had a 4 touchdown game. He's definitely coming on. The receivers are coming on. You can just see it getting better for him. But I think he's still behind these other guys. But I like where it's heading, right? He's going to end up over 4,000 yards. Touchdowns are only at 24. That could go up, but you can see the improvement. Last year, he had 3,600 yards, 12 touchdowns, 17 picks. This year, he's up to 3,900, 24 touchdowns, 8 picks. He's improving big time. So we should see, I think, another step next year for him. So Trevor Lawrence, my number 8, and your number 10 then.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you. I love his ability. I love what they're doing with the team. They're putting pieces around him. So I think that you just expect him to take another step, but it's usually slower than we think. So I'm still hesitant putting him at number 10. And people like, well, I guess, we'll see who you have over him, but yeah.
So who do you have number 9?
Who do I have over him?
Yeah.
Number 9, I have Dak.
All right. My number 9 too.
Okay. So, yeah, obviously Dak is good. He was hurt. Otherwise he would be in everyone's top 10. I think he picked his moments. They were running with Pollard. They run with Zeke. His touchdown numbers could be way better because they run so much, but CeeDee Lamb really came on at the end of the year when he didn't have a strong start. He ended up in the top 10. So everything is kind of going his way and they're winning games. So I feel like with that one too, we will see what happens with the running back by committee type thing. And if they go out and get another wide receiver, but even if they don't, I feel like Gallup, just getting his legs back under him. I think he is he could be a very quality wide receiver, and Schultz is a good tight end. So he kind of has everything there for him. I think that it's just time to retool and time to get everyone healthy at the same time.
Yep. So I'm with you. He's let's see, 2-4 9th this year actually in points per game. So when you just take out the missed games, he's 9th. He's behind Geno Smith, but I think we don't believe in Geno for next year. I'm not going
to put him in top 10, but good for him.
He's fine, but Dak's up there. I feel really good about him. He's going to be solid. He's just solid. I don't think he's ever going to be top tier, but he's just a solid option. But telling you, I think next year is the year I want one of those top guys. I would just feel so much better if I had one of those guys to just give me the points that I know I'm going to get them. So, but all right.
So you have
one more.
I was going to say you have number 10. So Kyler Murray did not show up on your.
No. So this is where you don't have this dilemma that I do. This is a tough spot to find a 10th guy.
I-
It's not great.
If I guess, I would guess Tua.
It's Tua. Yep.
Okay.
So,
And
yeah,
the
it is
injury thing
Tua.
scared me off. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to I'm gonna try not to worry about that right now. But it's a major deal. Like if you have multiple, they're gonna say it's 2 concussions, but I think we all think it's 3. I think that's kind of what they're still not saying the first one was a concussion, but I don't know. Kind of felt like it looks like a concussion. And there's if that's 3 in a year, even 2, it's rough. That's not good. That's not good. No. But if healthy, if playing, he's a good quarterback. I think he was 11th in points per game this year, actually, ahead of Trevor Lawrence, ahead of Justin Herbert when he played, and he has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. That's the biggest thing. He has 2 receivers who are great that he can get the ball to. And because of that, again, health is a major deal with him, though. Like a lot of these guys, and his isn't because of running. It's just because he just doesn't take hits well for some reason, and hits his head. It's not good. He was actually behind Daniel Jones in points per game. Daniel Jones was 10th, and we're not gonna. I can't. I'm sorry. I've seen more from Daniel Jones, but Tua has the receivers. He has the receivers. That's the biggest part to me. He's a good quarterback with awesome, just amazing receivers.
Yeah, he would be a lot. I'm trying to think of actually where he would be if it wasn't for the concussion, because concussions do.
It's worrisome. There's worry there.
It's just you don't want that to happen to anyone. But that's not. I mean, I put Kyler Murray at number 7, and he, it's a very different injury, and a lot of people say it's worse. But at the same time, I know that heals and you can come back.
It's worse because it's long term, but concussion that's messed up. You don't want to mess up your head.
Especially with that many in a year, I feel like you have one more, and all of a sudden the team absolutely has to take you out, and you don't know when you're coming back.
For sure.
But I totally agree with you. Like he was the other guy that I was looking at here, and I was like, if it wasn't for that, I would have put him in my top 10 for sure. He probably would have been number, even with one less concussion, you probably jumped to number 9. I probably put Justin Herbert above him just because, but yeah, I probably Dak, and then Trevor probably gets knocked off.
Yep. But all right, there we go. There's our top 10. So that'll do it for rankings. I think we'll be back next week. We'll bring you a couple of breakout players. We think we already on our mind for next year, but that'll do it for this one. And we'll talk to you guys next time.